The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Just like the Vancouver Canucks chose Rick Tocchet over Connor Bedard, they also chose Jonathan Lekkerimaki over Andrei Kuzmenko.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks writer currently with the Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into the episode, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks because it is your Canucks every damn day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, what are you waiting for? Make sure you go subscribe and like this video on YouTube, and on the podcast side, go follow us and leave a good old 5-star review, because we're not here without you, but we're also not here without the sponsors. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Man, oh man, the Vancouver Canucks are getting their rematch started with the Calgary Flames, okay? The rivalry, it's put on the back burner with the Flames struggling, but the Flames did give the Canucks some problems in their first game of the season. And one of the guys in the Calgary Flames, Andrei Kuzmenko. And I know Kyle Bowen, my co-host, not here at the moment, but he wanted to ask the question, did the Canucks give up on Kuzmenko too early? Heck, did the Canucks give up on Daniel Sprong too early? That is to be determined, but I think with Kuzmenko, we got a bit more to chew on there. We'll get into that. Lots of news and notes regarding your Vancouver Canucks, including where Jonathan Lekkerimaki slots into the lineup, both at even strength and on the power play. JT Miller talked about his recent struggles, all that and more coming up on this episode. But let's kick it off with Andrei Kuzmenko. And man, oh man, Kyle, I almost want to shake your head right now, man. I want to slap you around a little bit. Unbelievable the Canucks give up on Kuzmenko too early. Let's look at the stat line right now for Andrei Kuzmenko, because it's looking a little bit Vancouver-esque right now, okay? 16 games so far for Andrei Kuzmenko this season. One goal, and 9 points so far this season. And that is despite the fact that he's playing almost 70% of his shifts beginning in the offensive zone, despite the fact that he's playing with the Flames' best center in Nazem Kadri, okay? This has been a struggle for Andrei Kuzmenko with the Calgary Flames. And look, we know with Kuzmenko, and it's the same thing with Daniel Sprong, okay? So I think it's worth bringing this up, and I'll give Kyle credit on that one, because with Sprong and Kuzmenko, there's a reason why both players aren't on the team. And JT Miller talks about it with his comments that I'll get to later. Both players struggle on the forecheck, okay? They both want to rely on their skill to get the job done, and they're both a bit lackadaisical in their own end. And it's been kind of similar for Andrei Kuzmenko so far with the Calgary Flames. And I know he, went into Calgary last season and went on a bit of a heater, okay? And he's a fun guy to have around, right? I miss having him around the Canucks dressing room. He was a fun interview. But the Canucks right now are, again, they're a Stanley Cup contender, despite the fact that they've had a chaotic start. Despite the fact that they're, again, 7-3-3 and have one win in 6 home ice games. This team is a Stanley Cup contender, and because of that, they got to make some bold decisions. And giving up on Kuzmenko, now, giving up on him wasn't the issue. The issue potentially, and I think this is what Kyle wanted to allude to, was the package that they traded away for Andrei Kuzmenko. And you guys know the package, right? A first-round pick, along with Kuzmenko, along with defenseman Hunter Brushevitz, for half the season of Elias Lindholm, where the dude kind of struggled. And you can look at it this way right now too, right? I mean, that package in its totality was a lot to give up for Lindholm, but I stand with Patrick Allvin on that one. I think that was the kind of move that they had to make in order to ice a team that, had a chance to win the Stanley Cup. And of course, they came up short, losing in Game 7 to the Edmonton Oilers. But I mean, maybe I'm on an island by myself here, but I still applaud Patrick Allvin for making that move. Obviously, in hindsight, you lose Lindholm in free agency. It ends up being a pretty steep package, but those are the kind of moves that contending teams make. And the Canucks are going to make a similar move, whether you like it or not. later on this season because, again, they're going to target a right shot defenseman. And man, oh man, I think we're going to get into that this week because if you're targeting a right shot defenseman, the options are kind of thin. And yeah, Rasmus Anderson still might be the guy. The Canucks might be dealing with the Calgary Flames all over again. Now, we'll talk about what a package for Rasmus Anderson could look like potentially later this week, but it's probably going to cost you as much, if not more, than it cost the Canucks to acquire Elias Lindholm from the Calgary Flames in the first place. Now, the other question to ask yourself with Andrei Kuzmenko is, you look at the salary, and a guy that has an identical salary to Andrei Kuzmenko in terms of the average annual value is Jake DeBrusk. And yes, there's a lot more term attached to Jake DeBrusk, but, and again, feel free to answer this question in the comments, whether you're watching live or listening after the fact here. Would you rather have 1 year left of Andrei Kuzmenko at $5.5 million, or would you rather have 7 years of Jake DeBrusk, also at $5.5 million? And I think the easy answer there, maybe not an easy answer, you're entitled to your opinion, but Jake DeBrusk, he's proven that he can play in the playoffs, right? As a rookie, last year leads the Boston Bruins in playoff scoring. Look at the Boston Bruins so far without him this year. I know he struggled in the regular season, but their offense is one of the worst in the league so far, both in terms of shot generation and in terms of scoring. And again, 7 years is a long time for Jake DeBrusk, but what he brings is a high floor. This is a player who is smart and sound defensively, obviously a bit streaky, much like Kuzmenko, but he brings that defensive floor. That's something that Andrei Kuzmenko never had with the Vancouver Canucks. And on some teams, you could get away with it. I honestly think to myself that Andrei Kuzmenko might be better suited to play in the Eastern Conference, where the game is a bit more speed and skill. And I know that's generalizing a little bit because each team plays a bit differently, but the West does tend to be a bit more of a tighter forechecking kind of conference, right? A bit more physicality there. And that's just not suited to Andrei Kuzmenko's game. It's not suited to Daniel Sprong's game either. And that's the reason why Daniel Sprong is no longer with the Vancouver Canucks. And, you know, Kyle and I touched on it a couple episodes ago, but Daniel Sprong just didn't suit the Vancouver Canucks style. You know, I think he tried to be a better forechecker. Didn't notice it as a obvious flaw in his game. It wasn't really a strength or a flaw. But I think the issue with Daniel Sprong in Vancouver is he tried so hard to adapt to this system in Vancouver that he gave up some of that offense. And there were moments, there were flashes. Unfortunately, one of it was in a preseason game. But Daniel Sprong, I think, struggled to adjust to Vancouver. And I think if we were going to see the best of Daniel Sprong here, you would have needed to give him a couple months. And based on the forward depth the Canucks have, I don't know if he would have had a couple months, right? Again, Dakota Joshua coming back into the lineup potentially Thursday. More on that in the news notes later. And again, Jonathan Lekkerimaki going to make his NHL debut tonight against the Calgary Flames. Jonathan Lekkerimaki, based on what we saw in preseason and based on what he's done in Abbotsford, is a better defensive player than Andrei Kuzmenko and Daniel Sprong. Bit of a bold proclamation because he hasn't played in the NHL yet, but look at the guy's tape. He does a really good job of getting his stick in passing lanes in the defensive zone. And of course, not a big guy. He's never going to bully guys on the boards, but he's a smart hockey player. And again, lots of players like that in the NHL now. You got to be a smart hockey player with your stick. And you got to understand offense. And I think Jonathan Lekkerimaki does a good job of that. But I've been impressed with what I've seen from him in Abbotsford in terms of the defensive breakups. Again, that's certainly not a flaw in his game, but JT Miller alluded to it. I'll get to those comments quickly on the other side, but Jonathan Lekkermaki's got a forecheck. If he can mix in that awareness defensively with the ability to forecheck and just find open space, he's going to be all right. And get back on the back check too. I mean, both Daniel Sprong and Andrei Kuzmenko failed in that regard. Jonathan Lekkerimaki, the ceiling's a lot higher. The expectations are higher. But I think this guy's going to knock it out of the park for your Vancouver Canucks. Maybe not right away. Have some patience. We talked about that yesterday. Some of the comparables. Mikael Granlund was one. He took a while to find his NHL footing. A lot of guys with a similar draft profile took time to find their NHL footing. But Jonathan Lekkerimaki is going to get a chance to get a running start playing with JT Miller. More about JT Miller on the other side as we cut to break here on Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. We'll get into the lineup against the Calgary Flames, some comments that JT Miller had about his recent struggles, all that and more coming up on the other side after we showed our friends over at Select Quote and PrizePicks. All right. The World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork, baby. And you know that teamwork makes the dream work, okay? And that's why I got to do Locked On Canucks with my buddy Kyle Bowen. He ain't here today, but most of the time, he's carrying the weight here on the show. Again, because we know that teamwork makes the dream work. And it's the same with your insurance, okay? Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping around for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Whoa. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. That's a lot of dough, man. Unbelievable. And these policies are more affordable than you think. You could get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 per month. Head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will help you call the right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. All right. And FanDuel, man, they're always coming through for us here on Locked On Canucks, and they're going to come through for you, okay? So get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never trust a fart. Never waste a hunch, my bad. And make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. We're back here on Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of the show, usually joined by my better half, Kyle Bowen. I'm not even talking about my wife here. She's also my better half. And my better half on Locked On, Kyle Bowen. He's either pooping or driving or pooping and driving at the same time. Not quite sure, okay? But here we are on Locked On Canucks today. Again, Andrei Kuzmenko and the Calgary Flames playing the Vancouver Canucks tonight. Andrei Kuzmenko with 1 goal in 16 games so far. And let's ask the question, okay? By the end of tonight, who has more goals this season? Jonathan Lekkerimaki or Andrei Kuzmenko? It's a tough question here, but Lekkerimaki is going to get a decent shot. And let's look at the lineup tonight against the Calgary Flames, courtesy of practice yesterday. And here he is, okay, on the top line. If you call this a top line for your Vancouver Canucks, you got Pius Suter, JT Miller, and Jonathan Lekkerimaki. Second line, you got Jake DeBrusk, Elias Pettersson, Connor Garland. The third line, one of the best third lines in the NHL, maybe more on that this week too. Danton Heinen, Teddy Blueger, Kiefer Sherwood. And we'll see what happens here at the fourth line because, and there we go. There's the most recent announcement. So at practice yesterday, it was Dakota Joshua, Aatu Rato, and Nils Höglander on the fourth line. Dakota Joshua been ruled out for tonight. He may play Thursday, according to Rick Tocchet, so he's damn close. But it was announced today the Canucks just called him Arshdeep Bains because they would have gone into another situation with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. And we all know how that worked out on Saturday night. That was a tough one. So it looks like Arshdeep Bains, Aatu Rato, and Nils Höglander on the fourth line today. And Patrick Allvin talked about it, okay? I don't know if you believed him. Sometimes I was a little bit like, how many of these guys are really going to make an impact? But we heard Patrick Allvin talk time and time again about how, there's players in Abbotsford pushing for jobs and blah, blah, blah. And you're going, okay, like maybe 1, maybe 2 of these guys. There's a chance tonight that, one quarter of the Canucks forward group are going to be guys who were either prospects or spent all of last season more or less down in the AHL. It was Arshdeep Bains, Aatu Rato, and Jonathan Lekkerimaki, okay? Looks like they will all be in the lineup tonight for your Vancouver Canucks. And again, you got one guy who was a first-round pick, but the other guys who, they all came through different avenues, right? Which, again, I think is another testament to this management team. right? RC Bain's the free agent, okay? The local boy. Shout out to Surrey. Atu Ratu in the Bo Horvat trade, and Jonathan Lekkerimaki, the first round pick in 2022. Again, this management team has managed to find guys, to find value through different avenues. And again, just damn impressive how they've rebuilt this team that was a sad team for a long time. And you know what? I know it. The Jim Benning era, a disaster. And I had one of my buddies text me over the weekend saying that, his head's spinning from all these moves the Canucks are making, right? All the LTIR or the calling guys up and down and trades and all this. My buddy's comment was, the Canucks never did this other than Jim Benning. Of course not. Of course not. Jim Benning was too busy looking up Jay Beagle highlights on YouTube, man. Unbelievable. OEL highlights from 2009. Guy didn't even do his job, man. Unbelievable. But I think the main reason why the Canucks are making even more moves than the normal is twofold, right? A, they got their AHL team in Abbotsford. That was a goal for a long time. I mean, Utica, I hear it's a great place. I miss good old Ben Brunell from the Utica Observer Dispatch, but it was never a good fit for the Canucks. The fact that they're in Abbotsford now, and hell, I'm at my office right now, 5 minutes away from the Abbotsford Center, man. It makes a big difference to have your farm team, 45 minutes down the highway, and no traffic, that is. But the other thing, too, is the Canucks are not operating in LTIR anymore. And I think, most casual fans are like, what's the big deal? You get a guy on LTIR, you have cap space. But we're seeing the benefits of it now, not operating in LTIR. And the fact that the Canucks can start to accumulate this cap space daily. And, according to Puckpedia, and I know one of our commenters, James Moore, has been big on this, but the Canucks right now, or last I checked, had about 5.5 projected million in cap space by the deadline. They're down to about 5.3 right now. Again, Jonathan Lekkerimaki is a bit of a higher cap hit than some of the other guys that were called up in the past there. But again, exciting times for Jonathan Lekkerimaki. Exciting times for the Vancouver Canucks because, again, you got competent management at the helm now. And the Canucks are exciting because, for a number of reasons, but JT Miller, okay? And I want to get to some of the comments from JT Miller, who talked a bit about his slow start and interesting points from the column that IMAC did that was published this morning. JT Miller, again, 5 goals, 11 points in 13 games. Not numbers that blow you away, but, they're not the worst in the world. But at this point last season, JT Miller already had 20 points in 13 games, okay? So it's certainly been a slower start through JT Miller. But here's what he said. He said, quote, "I still feel fast, but haven't been as physical for reasons, and I've started to be a little bit more lately, and that feels better. I know my last game against the Oilers wasn't a good game, but right now the timing is off a bit with our forecheck. We're not extending ozone time, and my lack of physicality has a lot to do with that. We're not spending a lot of time in the D zone most nights, and it's not like we're getting hurted by teams. It's just we're not extending our ozone shifts, so our chances are one and done. And that's a frustrating game to play because it feels like you're just doing laps up and down the ice." He goes on to talk about how these stretches happen during a season, but the fact that it's happened at the beginning of the season has been tough for him. And again, JT Miller right now, not looking like the same guy. That's pretty obvious, but we kind of talked about it on yesterday's episode, and the fact that JT Miller seems like he's tailed off a bit over the past few games, and I think Elias Pettersson's really started to pick it up. And maybe I'm grasping at straws. I know we got some Pettersson haters in the comments here, but Pettersson's been a lot better over the past, I'd say, 8 games. And a lot of this on the defensive side of the puck, but I think the offense is finally starting to come. And at a time where JT Miller is struggling, that makes a huge difference for the Vancouver Canucks. Quinn Hughes obviously had a tough game on a Saturday, but for the most part, he's been one of the best damn players in the NHL. So, again, with the Vancouver Canucks right now, there's a lot of guys who can do damage on this team. The bottom 6, and especially that third line, has been there consistently. Quinn Hughes has been there consistently. Now it's time for the top 6, and this is grasping at straws, but the bottom half of the defense to finally pick it up as well. Let's wrap up the show on the other side, get to some of your comments, talk about where Jonathan Lekkerimaki slots in on the power play, all right? That's coming up on the other side after we shout out our friends over at PrizePicks. If you're playing daily fantasy sports, baby, you got to go to PrizePicks, okay? Because PrizePicks, they got over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, okay? Unbelievable stuff. When you're on PrizePicks, all you got to do is select for 4 different players, more or less, on at least for some of their stats, and you can win up to 100 times your money, okay? It's that easy, okay? Pick 4 guys. Elias Pettersson, is he going to get a goal tonight or not? Jonathan Lekkerimaki, goal tonight. JT Miller, power play point. Kevin Lankin, is he going to get the win? Boom, bam, make those 4 picks. You can win up to 100 times your money, man. Unbelievable stuff, okay? And on PrizePicks, if you sign up today, you'll get $50 instantly when you play, just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed, okay? So make sure you download that PrizePick app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's time to run your game. All right. We're back here on Locked On Canucks. We're back here. I'm back here. Cal Bowen is somewhere, man, doing something right now, and he'll be back soon. Cal and I hopefully on the post-game show later tonight as the Vancouver Canucks take on the Calgary Flames. A couple more news and notes to get here. Talked about Dakota Josh playing Thursday. Again, Archie Bains, if you missed it, has been recalled for tonight's game. I want to talk about Archer Shelovs quickly, okay? Because one of the strange moves the Canucks made over the weekend was assigning Archer Shelovs back to the AHL and recalling Ty Young from the ECHL. ECHL Ty Young, unbelievable. But Archer Shelovs, the reason he did it is because he got to start a game at Abbotsford over the weekend against Bakersfield, picks up the dub, 23 saves in a 4-2 Abbotsford win. And just, again, only got to see the highlights of that game, but looks steady, looks solid. And he talked about it too recently with Ian McIntyre about, losing his confidence a little bit, okay? And the fact that, when you're not winning, it's hard on you mentally. He talked about, quote, you just have to bear down, right, and go back to the basics and just clear your mindset, okay? There we go. See, Archer Shelovs doing it like Kyle Bowen, reading that Deepak Chopra card. And so that's all you got to do, man. If you're having a bad day, find the park, celebrate 420 and read some Deepak Chopra, man. And do it just like Archer Shelovs did. I mean, come on. We talked about it before. This guy got married at 18. He's got a maturity beyond his years. And I hope he gets some games in here, at least a couple of games. Get him his first win of the season, for Christ's sakes, before Thatcher Demko comes back into the lineup. We're seeing some Demko settings at practice now. Not really practicing with the full group, but out on the ice at the same time. And Archer Shelovs, again, you got 3 games this week. Calgary tonight, the Islanders Thursday, the Blackhawks on Saturday. Give Shelovs at least one of those games here, all right? Kevin Lankinen, wasn't his fault what happened against the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday, but it's funny how one bad game can wreck your stats. I mean, this guy was second in goals against heading into that game, 5th overall in save percentage, and he is outside of the top 10 in both now, just due to one bad appearance. Last thing I wanted to touch on was the power play lines heading into tonight's game. So for those hoping that Jonathan Lekkerimaki is going to get a shot on the top unit, you might have to wait a little bit because that's not how they lined up at practice. So at practice, it was Connor Garland and Elias Pettersson switched playing net front. They were joined up front by Pius Suter and JT Miller, Quinn Hughes manning the point. The second power play unit, Kiefer Sherwood at net front. Then you got Jonathan Lekkerimaki, Danton Heinen, and Jake DeBrusk, with Phil Hronek manning the point. I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. You got Pius Suter on the top unit. Just try to Lekkerimaki there. Come on, man. Let's have some fun. Maybe it's not the smartest decision. It's this guy's first NHL game, but he's got such a hell of a shot, man. Such a hell of a shot. Loves to shoot the puck. We said about Daniel Sprong, too, and I kind of mentioned it. Get the guy with the 6th shot on the first unit, especially if you're going to have Pettersson at net front, okay? Come on, man. Just have some fun, man. Unbelievable stuff, okay? All right, let's get to some of the comments before we get out of here. Jay Schro in the comments saying, having a Swedish line of Petey, Hoggy, and Lekkerimaki should energize them all. I think that's tantalizing, but I think you want to see Elias Pettersson just find his game a little bit more right now. Keep finding his game, right? The other issue with that, and it's not a huge issue, but both Nils Höglander and Jonathan Lekkerimaki tend to play right wing. Höglander has shifted over to the left on occasion. But I think right now, again, Hoggy's not playing his best hockey. Petey's just starting to find it again. I think, putting him with Lekkerimaki, I'm into it. But I think you got to wait a little bit too. Jay Shaw with some more lineup comments. Then make a destruction line of Sherwood, Joshua, and Miller with Fort Port and Dayhorny back there. Okay. Forbort, apparently, we haven't touched on this, could be out up to a month with a knee injury right now. So a bit of an extended absence for Derek Forbort. Tough goal for him, man. One love to Derek Forbort. His father passed away recently. Now he's got the knee injury. The one game I covered this season at the rink, he was chugging Pepto-Bismol out of a Timmy's cup on the bench. I mean, I feel like Derek Forbort's been going through it a bit right now. But that line in general, talk about getting JT Miller going, okay? Sherwood, Joshua, and Miller. I mean, again, I like how Jay Schroeder's having some fun there. But I think you want to spread out the physicality a little bit, right? Those are the Canucks' 3 most physical players. And if you have them all on the same line, I think you're not having a lot of physicality in the rest of your lines there, right? So, I mean, that's probably not what I would do, but I like the fact that Jay Schro is having fun. Let's go to Mother Knucker. He says, I feel like Rick Tocchet does not trust Jonathan Lekkerimaki with PD right now. Maybe he feels Suits and Millsy will insulate Lek more defensively. And that's an interesting comment because we talked about it a bit, right? JT Miller is kind of struggling right now. I'd say Elias Pettersson over the past handful of games has played better than JT Miller, but I think it goes back to confidence, right? And you hear ex-players talk about this all the time. You want to be right between the ears. I mean, you can have all the skills in the world, but if you're not confident, if you're not feeling it, then you're going to struggle, especially if you're a guy like Elias Pettersson. And I think JT Miller right now, we touched on their struggles a bit yesterday, Kyle and I. I don't think JT Miller's lacking confidence right now. I do think it's some injury nagging him. Whereas Elias Pettersson, I think, is lacking confidence. And that's why I think you see Elias Pettersson with guys like DeBrusk and Garland, established NHLers, top 6 guys. And you get JT Miller, even though he hasn't played as well recently, with guys like Pius Suter and Jonathan Lekkerimaki. All right. SK93 with a comment. How many more days until Hoglander is traded for Marcus Pettersson? Man, oh man, the fire sale might be coming in Pittsburgh after a 7-1 loss against the Dallas Stars. They go down 6-0 in the first period. Man, oh man, it is rough times right now for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And how about this for a trade target from Pittsburgh? We'll touch it later, this week, but if you're looking at right shot defenseman, is Chris Letang potentially an option for the Vancouver Canucks? And I think most people are saying, probably not. He's got the no move clause, but he has the ability to waive. Crosby's only there for 2 more years based on his contract. I just wonder if Pittsburgh right now, I think Kyle Dubas is probably itching to blow things up, despite the fact that he re-signed Crosby in the offseason. And suddenly, if you trade Letang, one of Crosby or Malkin goes, man, oh man, you could start really stockpiling some assets for a brighter future in Pittsburgh. I mean, come on, you won 3 cups. Time to move on if you're the Pittsburgh Penguins. Marcus Pettersson, an expired UFA, he's a lot more likely to move than those 3 guys. But I think let me know in the comments. What do you think? Chris Letang to the Vancouver Canucks. Is that something that you're interested in if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan? Let's get to 1 or 2 more comments here. Kurt Richardson saying Kuzi would look deadly in New Jersey, exactly based on my comment about him playing in the Eastern Conference. I think you'd see a better version of Kuzmenko in the East. Red Rizzoto saying Kuzi to me always seem 1 step behind in skating and 2 or 3 or 5 in creativity. And I think that's another reason why Lekkerimaki has a step up on guys like Kuzmenko and Sprong, is he's quicker. And Daniel Sprong, you saw the speed in spurts there. He is a faster player than Kuzmenko, but it comes with the defensive deficiencies in this game. And Lekkerimaki is younger. He's more malleable. The brain's a bit spongier, unlike me over here on Locked On Canucks. Again, excited to see what Lekkerimaki can bring, but he's already bringing a better defensive floor than guys like Andrei Kuzmenko and Daniel Sprong. All right, let's get out of here, okay? This is another episode of Locked On Canucks. Shout out to the everydayers, occasional listeners, first-time listeners, new subscribers, and those of you who joined us on the live show on YouTube. If you like what we're doing, that's right, Kyle and Bowen and myself, make sure you go subscribe and like this on YouTube. Go follow us and leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts, okay? Go Canucks, go. I think the Canucks, they're not going to lose 2 games to the Calgary Flames. They're picking up a win tonight. Jonathan Lekkerimaki, is he going to get his first goal? We'll see. Maybe his first point, okay? I'm setting the bar a little lower for Lekkerimaki. And for more on that, check out yesterday's episode. But for now, we got to get out of here. We'll catch you on the post-game show tonight and catch you here tomorrow on Locked On Canucks.